Yes, members, you are most welcome once again to my YouTube channel, Learn Mathematics with Saddam Hussein. And I believe you enjoyed the other lesson. And secondly, now we want to move on to see how best we can handle more tricks in algebra. For example, when we are dealing with the unknowns, we still need to understand that the four operations are very important: addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. Those four operations are very important when you are dealing with the algebraic equations. Remember, in the morning I gave you some two questions and you are able to answer them. So we are now moving on to seeing some of these few questions. For example, when they give us, take for instance 2x minus x. Remember I told you in the morning that when you have 1x minus 1x, the answer is 0. So the coefficient of the unknowns were the same. That's why we got 0. But if you have 2x minus x, the coefficients are different. You can see that this one has a coefficient of 2 and this one has a coefficient of 1. Therefore, you realize that when you subtract the coefficients, you have 2 minus 1. What is 2 minus 1? This one we shall have here 1. Then you maintain the x, which is x. But it's not right to write 1x. I told you that unknown can stand on its own and remain with the coefficient of 1. And this one that you put here may not be very important. Therefore, I expect all of us to move on. Remember, as I'm moving on with the equations, I expect some of these key areas to be handled. This one looks to be negligible by anybody, but it's very important because in the next equation we are going to, we are supposed to be able to handle this simple working. Now, using that same example, we are going to compare it with this number, with this equation. When they give us 4p, this is 4p minus 3p equals to 2p plus 8. Yes. Remember, I told you be very careful when you're handling the coefficients. We are still dealing with equations that involve addition and subtraction. Now, when we have 4p minus 3p, this is the left-hand side, equals to 2p plus 8, which is the right-hand side. Now, what is 4p minus 3p? The coefficient of the first p is 4. Then the coefficient of the second p is 3. Therefore, when you're handling the ones on the right-hand side separately and on the left-hand side separately, you will have something which looks like this. So what is 4 minus 3? It is 1. You maintain the p. Don't say p minus p to get 0. No. Remember, these are different coefficients. This one represents 4 p's and this one represents 3 p's. Therefore, when you have 1p, I told you that this 1, I'm only putting it for the matter of learning, but 1 is not supposed to be put in a letter that can stand alone without the coefficient. So if you see a figure or that letter without a coefficient, it means it is having coefficient of 1, just like a number. For example, when they say y, when they give you y, and they say what is the index on y, the index there is power 1. Now, when you have 4p minus 3p equals to p, this one equals the right-hand side, which is 2p plus 8. In primary 4, you learned about collection of like terms. Now, when you look at this p, we also have another p here. What are we going to do? We can take this one p to this side where there's big P. I call it big because there are two. Here there are two p's and there's one p. Or else you can say, no, let me take the 2p the other side. There's no problem. Let us do either way. So you can have 1p. Remember, the sign on 2p here is positive, right? So this positive, when it crosses the equal sign, it becomes negative. This becomes 2p equals to 2p minus 2p, additive inverse. Remember, when you are dealing with a positive, 2p minus 2p, it crosses, the 2p crosses the other side, so it remains a 0 this side. Remember, to get a 0, you are supposed to have additive inverse of that same number. So this is negative, this is 1p minus 2p, which gives us negative p, equals to, what is 2p minus 2p? Remember in the first example, I told you clearly that when you have two p's, those figures here, the one we call the coefficients, are the same. 2p minus 2p, the answer will be 0, not 0p. Remember, the coefficients are the same, so you will get a 0. So 2p minus 2p is 0 plus 8. Don't forget to maintain the 8. Then, from this point, you will now have something which looks like this. You will have negative p equals to positive 8. But remember, we want to get the value of p, not value of negative p. Now, what did I tell you about here? That when you see a figure standing without a coefficient, it means it has a coefficient of 1. So when you put 1 here, you realize that it will be negative 1. So you divide both sides by negative 1, even here by negative 1, so that you remain with only p as the figure for this case. So you will have p, negative divided by negative is a positive. When we are dividing similar signs, remember I told you we get positive. Then what is negative? What is this positive 8 divided by negative 1? Definitely you will get negative 8. So that one becomes the value of p, which is negative 8. This equation looks complicated, but it's not. The moment you handle the other first part, I told you that x minus x equals to 0. Depending on the coefficient now, if they tell you 40x minus 15x, the answer is 25x. Reason being, you just subtract the coefficients and then you maintain the letter. That one's very important, by the way, for us to learn and for us to pick something from it. I told you we shall move step by step. The whole of this week we shall be learning algebra and we shall be able to understand why you always fail these equations. Simple equations, for example. By the way, in most cases, when you are able to answer this work of algebra very well, at UNEB level, it becomes very simple for us to understand. I know you will pass, only have the courage and the confidence. All of you are going to make it to the next classes. So, when we have these numbers done, we now have a very simple idea about this algebra. That's why I'm calling them the simple tricks that we handle in algebra. When you're handling algebra, make sure that the idea of integers is well stuck in your mind. Because when you don't know how to handle integers, then algebra becomes a challenge. Why I've reached this level? Because from primary 5, you have been taught how to handle simple numbers in algebra, and in primary 6 is the same thing. Now in primary 7, we now upgrade to this level. You are able to pick up some of these simple things and you are able to answer. Remember, algebra is set every time in PLE and you can easily catch up with the work. Otherwise, thank you very much for attending, and I'm going to give you some 2 numbers as my exercise. You also struggle and answer. When I come back, I'll be able to mark, and those comments, I expect them to be there on the YouTube channel. At your free time, you can put them and we get ourselves there. Please keep working hard and take care. COVID is real. Stay home and keep safe every time and again. These are only my 2 numbers. Struggle and do them, and then we shall see how best you can achieve. This is exercise number 1. You need to find values of the unknowns. Part A, 3y minus 2y equals to y plus 2. Sorry, we have 2y, not 2x, plus 2y plus 10. That is part A. Then part B, we have 10p plus 2p equals to 3p plus 15. Those are only two numbers that we are supposed to answer. And if you answer them well, it means you have understood the lesson properly. Continue subscribing. I told you the YouTube channel. The name is Learn Math with Saddam Hussein, the mathematics facilitator, and we shall be able to catch up. We meet next time, and may the Almighty God bless you as usual. Thank you very much.